Welcome back. This is the Daily Brief. We continue to follow quite a number of developing stories, including that we're getting further reactions of the division of members of parliament when it comes to the government's decision to continue with its Mau forest evictions in a bid to save one of Kenya's largest water towers. And now the question that is simply on the table is, what alternative can the government give to those who are said to have settled within and around the Mau illegally? That is a question, Jim, and I believe you had something to add on to that. Over to you.
Yeah, one of the things that I was saying is, let's not pretend that the Mau issue just came up the other day.
Yeah.
This is an issue that has been with us since the Grand Coalition government.
And you alluded to the fact that it's over time used as a political tool. Why is this the case?
It's the case because if you look at the events, for instance, between 2013 and 2017, one of the main campaign points in that election was the Mau forest. One of the key deterrents and the reasons as to why Raila Odinga did not get a lot of votes from Rift Valley was because he was seen as the person who wanted to evict people from the Mau. So again now, the deputy president, again now is a lot of people are saying he's the one who formed the task force. Is he evicting his own people? And so over the years, this has simply been used to make people very emotional and not speak sense to them and let them know that, one, you are on government property, you're putting at risk the lives of millions of other Kenyans by you living here, and all that we are asking is that you move. These people were given notice years ago, but as the reporter said, that they've kept on encroaching farther and farther into the red zone, farther and farther in. So it means they're doing it with impunity. And some of the political leaders who today are making noise are the ones who are even encouraging those people to move into that part of the forest. So I'm sorry if this feels a bit inhuman, but we cannot have people in that forest. And government has all the rights to ensure that they get out of that forest because they were given notice. But I would agree with my friend that if anyone has a title deed, then in that case, government made a mistake and they ought to correct it. But I do not think they would. And the reason why I say that is simple. This is the government that gives people documents and later on says they do not recognize those documents. Our friend Miguna is an example. You're given a document by government and then tomorrow you're told that they do not recognize the government. You're given a title deed, tomorrow they do not recognize the title deed. So woe unto the people in the Mau.
Charles, the question on the table is obviously on the alternative and the manner in which this exercise is being carried out.
Yes. I think first things first, the Ndungu land report, it has never been implemented. Mau is also adversely mentioned in the Ndungu land report because politicians have excised land out of the Mau. And the family of the former president owns tea estates in the Mau. You understand? Now, if we're going to have an alternative, we cannot punish the poor who are only seeking a livelihood by failing to do what you're supposed to do as leaders. Implement the Ndungu land report. Go back to our TJRC report. Look at it and find out what can be done to address these issues. You cannot go evicting people, mistreating them in the name of conservation, which is good and we support it, but the rights of those children, those women must be taken into account. The alternative is the government to take a sit back, look on the issue, take away politics, tell politicians out of
I'd like you to tackle on the issue of politics.
Yes.
Why has Mau over the time been used? And if you look at the trend, it usually is in between an election, a period. So, for instance, a government's term. Right now, it's just about 3 years to the next election. It is coming up now. Why has that been an ongoing trend?
It is because when you look at the Rift Valley, Mau is in the middle of the Rift Valley, and Rift Valley is a vote-rich region in this country. It is always the one that decides who becomes the president. And at an issue like Mau, our politicians will always look for something to ride on so that they will show that we are with you as the people. As your leaders, we are defending you. As the leaders, we are standing with you. We're not going to allow you to be evicted from the Mau.
Some say that what is happening right now sort of vindicated Raila Odinga when he was Prime Minister at the time. Do you agree with that school of thought?
Very true, because I remember during those days we were in the university and we would discuss those issues, and where people were like, Raila Odinga is evicting people from the Mau. But we were looking at the future. If we can have one man who can risk it all to lose every vote in the Rift Valley to save the Mau, that's a leader. Because a leader takes people where they don't want to be, but they ought to be. For these people in the Mau, they're not supposed to be in the Mau. They're supposed to be out of the Mau, look for alternative land. We conserve the Mau for our posterity. And Raila Odinga stood very clearly that, hey, we must conserve the Mau at all costs. And that one cost him the presidency. The Rift Valley and politicians and parliamentarians rallied against Raila Odinga and said, hey, you're not going to get any vote because of the Mau issue. The deputy president today stood against Raila Odinga because of the Mau issue. Because we're saying, if you're evicting our people, and it's always about our people, why not us as a nation? Why are you not looking at the families? The people in Narok depend on the Mau. The people in the lower region of Western region depend on the Mau. Our neighboring Serengeti, our Masai Mara depend on the Mau. Look at the revenue going to. If the Masai Mara River dries, the wild-based migration is a thing of the past. There's no revenue, and there will be no money that can help alleviate poverty in those regions.
Jim, I'd like you to take the very same question that is to vindicate him, because he was sort of seen as the man spearheading, that particular eviction.
I must say, Raila, with his many flaws, one of the things that I most remember him about is the fact that he stood on environmental conservation. And what we lack is we do not have leaders who stand on issues and stand on something and decide it once and for all. And he's been vindicated, true to the story, that some of those leaders, like the deputy president, have finally found their heads. And now they're sobering up and realizing that, by the way, I cannot be president in a country where we do not have a forest. I cannot be president in a country where rivers are dry. And so I love the fact that he's been vindicated. But I also love the fact that the deputy president has had a change of heart, because he went to the Mau, he spoke to the people, and they agreed that they were going to move. All of a sudden, then we hear people like Kipchumba Murkomen saying that the people cannot move based on that. So I think Raila Odinga has been vindicated, but I hope that we stop dancing around the Mau issue. We cannot dance around it. Someone has to take the hard decision, and once and for all, we get people out of that forest, relocate them to a different place, and conserve, plant trees there, and ensure that for posterity and for the future of this nation, the Mau forest is conserved at all costs. Even if it means losing votes, it will have to mean that.
And something that we are following, before I get further directions from you, Charles, is that anytime from now we're expecting a press briefing by the National Lands Commission in connection to the Roraka land saga, yet another land situation. So we can combine these two issues, gentlemen, because all these are public land and seemingly threatened at the point that we are in. Charles.
Yeah, I was just thinking about politics and the whole issue of Mau. And the other day I was listening to the politicians speak, and you hear things to do with the handshake. These people who are in the opposition, they came into government, and now they're pushing the president to implement this. If the handshake is going to give us a better Mau, that is a plus to the generation that are coming. But we're not forgetting the people who are already victims of this situation because of lack of foresight from our politicians.
I'd like us to talk about the way forward in terms of the Mau situation, because as it is right now, this particular situation is pitting two sides. One, that of the county commissioner, Mr. Natembe, I forget his first name, as well as members of parliament drawn from that particular area. He says that the cut line that was done back in 2009 is what should stand. However, the members of parliament insist that they should use the T-zone, and therefore affecting less people in this eviction process. Charles?
I think as a government, there will always be the position. What's the position of the government? If the
county commissioner does indeed speak for.
Yeah, he speaks for the government.
And the members of parliament say they speak for the people.
For the people.
Yes.
I think members of parliament are dishonest in this matter. They are very much dishonest. And it's unfortunate that most of the members of parliament from that region happen to be in the ruling party, Jubilee Party. So there is some disconnect. There are people who are doing things to gain political mileage, while the government is pushing an agenda that is conservation of our forests. And therefore, I will support the county commissioner. We need people who stand. Say, this is the issue. We must conserve, but at the same time, let us conserve. Let us take care of the rights of the people, because that is my really worry. When you see children in the cold, women in the cold, property being burned, it sends a chill down your spine. And I ask myself, what happened to police reforms? What happened to a police officer going and explaining it? This is the situation. You have this number of hours, days to move. So people have time to collect their properties. They have time to organize for alternative accommodation. There are schools in that place. I'm asking myself, we're just nearing the period for Kenya National Examination Council to issue KCP and KCSE. What's happening to this kid? That's trauma already. Therefore, there must always be a strategic plan. There must be a beginning point. You must bring the public on board. Have barazas with these people. Tell them, this is what we're supposed to do. And that should be the role of the county commissioner. You should go into the Mao, meet those people, discuss with them, have a discussion outside politics, and let no politician be allowed, because they're just ordinary citizens who are coming to spoil what good plans the government and the county commissioners have.
Okay, Jim.
I think
you can talk about the Catline issue, because that also seems to be a bone of contention.
Yes. The Catline issue, you see, the Mao forest will be conserved as had been agreed in 2009. And that is the official government position. That is the official, even Jubilee Party position, because we saw the statement that was released by the Secretary General, Raphael Tuju. That is the official position. So any other thing that these naysayers are bringing on board is simply playing politics with it. Because you cannot say that we should reduce it and bring it to the T-zones and forget about the red line that was put in 2009, because what we are going to do is allowing more and more people to encroach onto that land, more of our trees to be cut, more people to settle there. And, you know, people continue planting, doing tea, as was alluded, that we have very serious senior politicians in this country who are planting trees inside the Mao. So if the conservation has to be done, it will be done as had been agreed in 2009. It's going to be painful, it's going to be brutal, but it's necessary. Sometimes we have to make those necessary sacrifices as a nation.
Okay, some news that we're getting right now is that the Parliamentary Finance Committee, I believe that actually it was the Senate, has rejected the nomination of Ben Chumo to the position of the Salaries and Remuneration Chairperson. You do remember that he had been appointed by the President a couple of weeks ago. However, just last week he appeared before he had been arrested. And of course, let me just get your reactions to that. Some had said the President had been misguided in this over his choice of chairperson for SRC, one Mr. Ben Chumo. Now, the National Assembly has actually rejected this. I can confirm to you, Charles.
That is the best news ever, because when I saw that gentleman appearing before that committee, I felt bad that he had the audacity of appearing before a committee while he knows very well that he's facing corruption charges in court. In developed court democracies, if you're facing any allegation, slight allegation, you resign your position as an honor, because you're bringing honor to that office. But when you've already been charged in court and you still want to lead as a very precious body like the SRC, you are taking Kenyans for a ride. Yeah.
Okay, Jim.
I think I haven't been as slightly proud as I am of Parliament as I am right now, because the President wasn't just misguided. The President knew the allegations that had been leveled against Ben Chumo. He was fully aware of them. I'm sure the NIS had briefed him, but he still went ahead and made that appointment. And that is why I find a lot of insincerity in his war against corruption, because I mean, this is the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and this is an individual who's been over and over again mentioned in graft allegations. So I'm very glad that he's not getting that job. He would have been Sarah Sarem did a fantastic job, and we hope that we'll find someone who's worthy to hold that position, and not Ben Chumo. He deserves to be where...
Okay. I'll stop you there. Now, the developing story right now, we're just confirming to you that the National Assembly's Finance Committee has rejected the nomination of Ben Chumo to the position of chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. He was vetted this week, and they have found him not best fit for that particular position. Perhaps keeping in mind that just last week he had been arrested in connection to the possible loss of millions of shillings at the Kenya Power, under which he served as a senior official within that particular parastatal. Now, right now, we're crossing over to a press briefing where the National Lands Commission chairperson, Mohammed Sazuri, is briefing in connection to a case that is currently being probed as to whether government actually bought its own land. Let's listen in.
It is exactly 2 months. Nobody has come to the commission to get facts. You rely on hearsay and your own sources of information, and you have been training us there. You've made, in the process, making me very famous, which I thank you for, making me a celebrity, although in a negative way, but I am there. I am a Kenyan, I'm a patriot Kenyan. Nothing that you're going to write is going to make me leave my job or not to execute my mandate. So continue writing even after we give you these facts. If the intention is to malign us, even what we are saying here will not be published. So I will read the statement and I will interject it with facts. I have a whole file here with all the necessary documents, which none of you has been interested to get. We have all of them here. And we have presented this to Anti-Corruption Commission, we have given this to Senate, we have given this to Parliament, we have given it to anybody who cares to read. We have given you. So our statement is as follows. The Commission's attention has been drawn to various media reports, and I've already mentioned that, with regard to the Ruaraka land compulsory acquisition, which I'm happy to announce that it started as a scandal, according to you. You downgraded it to a saga, now it is a puzzle. Whereas the Commission, through the local print media, placed an advertisement on 26 June enumerating the entire process and the correct possession, some sections of the media and other entities have continued giving misleading information to the public on the correct position. Thus, the need for the Commission to issue this press statement in order to shed light on some grey areas. This commission was first seized of this matter in July 2015, where the complainant, the registered owner of the parcel of land, Afrisom Export Limited and Hewlands, sought its intervention. The gist of the complaint was that its property had been illegally occupied, with which occupation he had contested for over 30 years without much help or success. The complainant had been complaining for over 30 years. When the Commission came on board, he thought it wise to come and complain to us. And the Constitution of Kenya has mandated the Commission to listen to complaints of Kenyans on matters of land. The Constitution, the Land Act, the National Land Commission Act. So we acted on that, on those provisions, and forwarded this to the relevant authorities. As a Constitutional Commission mandated, among many other functions, to ameliorate protracted disputes on land through ADR and spearhead land reform, the NLC undertook investigation into the complaint. It was on this basis that the National Commission pursued the matter with the attendant institutions, including the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, and the official government advisor, the AG, to confirm that the claim and the status of the land in question. This is in line with the mandate I've already prescribed to you. So when people say that it was a hurried process, it was done just the other day, it's not true. The complaint has been there for 34 years. NLC was seized it in 3 years, 3 years ago. July 2015, that's the last time, the first time we heard about it. Then the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education, upon receipt of a letter seeking further information in line with Section 6 of the NLC Act, wrote to the Land Commission on 17th March, acknowledging the complaint and confirming that indeed there were public schools which were built on private land. I have that letter here, which says we have confirmed, the Minister of Education itself said our schools are on private land. Please proceed to acquire. The letters are here. The Cabinet Secretary then formally requested NLC to guide it in the requisite formal process and secure public interest by acquiring the land on which the schools stand. At first, it is the PS who wrote, but according to the law, we corrected that. We told them, no. Although you want the land, but the process is, it is the Cabinet Secretary who should write. That is the letter that is being used by people to say that we are the ones who instigated. We are only correcting the position. We would not go proceed because Section 107 of the Land Act says whenever a national or county wants to acquire land, it is the respective cabinet secretary or CEC for lands, not the PS. That is the correction that we sought from them. That is not instigation. It is putting the record straight. Similarly, the AG wrote on 7th July, wrote an advisory opinion to the Minister of Education. The Minister of Education itself asked AG, and AG replied to them, and they copied it to the Commission. The opinion confirmed public interest of the schools and the need for compulsory acquisition since the schools were on private land. That opinion of the AG, we have it here. And then, as normally happens, when you get a requisition for compulsory acquisition, you go and check the ownership. Although they have said it is private land, we were not satisfied with that. So records from the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning, which we have here, clearly indicate that as of 28th March 1984, the registered owner of the property was Afrisom, Export and Import and Hewlands, and the registered owner had objected to the conditional approval of the subdivision by the Nairobi City Council and thus cancelled the request via their letter of 8th April 1984. This is one point which some people are relying upon to say it is public land, that there was a surrender. There was no surrender. And if somebody has that surrender, let them bring it to us. The process of surrendering land for public property, for public use is enumerated. Very detailed process here. It will end up with the approval being registered in the title, and a deed of surrender is signed. Nothing like that happened. So those ones who are relying on that angle are also totally wrong. And if they are right, let them parade to us. As we have paraded our documents everywhere, let them parade to us. We are the people who are dealing with land. We are the people who deal with compulsory acquisition. Let them tell us you are wrong because this is the deed of surrender. It is not there. Even the surveyor who was said to have done that subdivision has categorically denied. The letter is here. He never did any subdivision. So where are people getting this issue that there was a surrender? There is a letter here from the county government, January 2017, where he's saying there is no surrender, the land has remained intact. So where is this surrender coming from? There is no surrender. And if someone has, amongst you or those out there who are peddling lies to the public, let them provide that document. So as a matter of procedure, if a subdivision is approved, I'm just putting in context what I've explained. If a subdivision is approved and all conditions are accepted by the applicant, this is the procedure that I've mentioned here, requisite approval fees are applicable and a new survey is undertaken. Planning requirements form part of the conditions and may require the applicant to surrender a specified part of the land, 10% for public utilities and purposes. Upon surrender, a legal instrument known as a deed of surrender must be prepared and put on record. These records are available from the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning and a duplicate registered copy at the Survey of Kenya. None of them has those records. The Commission operates within the rule of law, and we are committed to ensuring that the rights of all parties in land matters are not prejudiced. In regard to the partial acquisition of LR number 7879/4 in favor of Oraka High School and Driving Primary School, the Commission acted within the law and is confident that justice has been served. I'm saying there, we are saying here that partial acquisition. All the records we have here indicate that this is not the first time that land is being purchased by the government. Okay, the land, the GSU land, the GSU housing is there. It was paid. The Thika Highway took part of it. It was paid. The road to Outer Ring Road took part of it, was paid. How come people never raised public interest then? Where were you? Weren't you here when Thika Road was being constructed? Part of the land was taken from there. Why didn't you raise issues? Why didn't people raise issues? For your information, a judgment was delivered in 2012. There was a court case. In 2012, there is a judgment that delivered, and the owner was awarded almost 4.1 billion. That judgment supersedes everything else. That judgment has never been appealed against until today, 6 years on. No one has come to say this is the wrong owner, this is the correct owner. No one has appealed against that judgment. In addition, there was a parliamentary committee headed by Fred Kapondi in the same year, which also said that the land is private, please pay, and payment was made. So who are these people who are saying that the government is paying for its own land? Who are these? So the parliament was wrong, the court was wrong, but hearsay is right. That's what you're telling us. We are not going to accept that. What you people are trying to do is intimidate the commission so that it doesn't work. We are committed to the Big Four agenda by the president of this country, Uhuru Kenyatta. No amount of intimidation is going to stop us from that, because the Big Four agenda by
No amount of intimidation will stop the National Lands Commission chairperson, that is Mohammed Sazuri, and his team. And he further says that all information is available, that due process was followed in the selling of the Raka land parcel. We'll take a short commercial break. We'll be right back to listen in further to what Sazuri has to say, and of course have my panel react to these and other stories. Stay tuned.